We are back once again on Yankees Hot Stove, and as we like to do occasionally throughout the season, in fact, more than occasionally this offseason, check in Kayville. It is a wonderful place to spend the holiday season. Magical things happen there, and magical things, we think, Michael Kay has to say. Michael, you ready? Well, we got a wide shot of the studio. It looks fantastic in there.
It really does. Soak it in, because I think this is the last day. I think the wrecking ball hits it on Monday.
Oh, boy. That's a problem.
Yeah,
all right,
sad.
Let's talk a little bit about where the Yankees are at right now. One of the things we've kind of kicked around, and you hear a lot of chatter about it lately, are they better off right now as they sit than they were at the end of 2015? What do you think?
Well, that's a little bit of a loaded question, because a lot of it depends on the health. I mean, are you getting Nathan Eovaldi back healthy? You're getting Tanaka back healthy? What's the CC that you're getting? If all of those are answered in the affirmative, I like their situation at second much better than I did at any point last year. And they really, positional-wise, they didn't do anything other than add Starlin Castro. They did add Hicks, but he's right now a fourth outfielder. Their bullpen is not as good. So I think if the starting pitching is healthy, I expect that they'll fill in the bullpen holes that they've created with a couple of the trades they made. I think they're probably better starting the season because of the second base situation.
Michael, when you look at what Severino did last year, what Bird did last year, how a guy like Sanchez could contribute next year, how about the youth infusion that the Yankees are going to in their organization?
I think it's so important, Jack. I really do, and I think that's the plan. I think that's the long-range plan. And if I'm going to tip my hat to the Yankees, the thing that I would tip my hat to them about is they're trying to get younger. They're trying to get more athletic. They would never use the word rebuild, because that's not what they do, but they are rethinking the way they build their teams. And while they're doing this, they're still able to make the playoffs, which they did last year, and they lost the first game to the Houston Astros. So if you can do all of that, get young, remove some of the veterans and the higher salaries as the years go by, and continue to compete, I think you're hitting a home run in that sense. And, the ascension of Bird when Mark Teixeira got hurt, and Severino showing what he shows, where he could actually start next season maybe as the number 2 coming into the season. That's really important players that your organization has developed. You mentioned Sanchez. They'll give him a shot behind the plate. Austin Romine might get a shot as the backup behind McCann as well. You've got Aaron Judge waiting in the background. Mateo is a guy that a lot of teams covet. Will he end up being the Yankees shortstop? I don't know, because it looks like Didi Gregorius could be the long-term answer there. But, you're also building trade chips when you're building up your farm system, and I think the Yankees are doing that as well.
And, Michael, isn't it interesting when you think about what you were just talking about, especially with regard to Bird and Severino? Scouting is more than just looking at the physical tools. It's about looking at the mental tools and how are they going to handle it when they get that step up to the bright lights and they're looking at that third deck out in right field and around the stadium. So when you think about Bird and Severino, you got to hit on the right guys that can handle that situation, and they did.
I think you're right, and I think that the Yankees have to take that into consideration when they draft kids and when they scout kids. Are they able to handle the scene that is New York? Can they handle Yankee Stadium? Can they handle 50,000 people? Can they handle the pressure of an organization that still thinks, a world championship or bust? So, that's not just breaking in a smaller market. That's breaking in on Broadway. And I think that's what made the debut of Greg Bird so impressionable. And I also think that Luis Severino did such a good job. He never, ever showed that he was a kid that was so young, that had never been at this level before, and it's rocketed through the Yankee system. He acted like he'd been there, he'd done that, he'd had the T-shirt. I think that's really important for the Yankees moving forward, that these kids actually, they hit the stage running, and they actually did not take a step back at all. The big lights did not blind them one bit.
Michael, let's go from the kids to some of the older guys. You look at A-Rod and Teixeira, a lot of questions about them coming into last season, and both of them produced. So those same questions are going to follow them this season. Can the Yankees expect the same kind of production out of those two guys?
Well, Jack, I think it's the question for 2016, because if they give the Yankees the production that they gave them last year, then the Yankees are again contenders. Can Teixeira hit 31 home runs? Remember, he missed the end of the season because of the broken leg. He probably finishes up with 37 home runs, 100 runs batted in. Can Alex clock in at 33 home runs again? Can he possibly play 151 games? Alex is a year older. So is Mark Teixeira. I think Mark Teixeira's leg is going to be fine. I asked Joe Girardi about that. He should be ready by spring training. So I don't think that that's a question mark. I think Mark answered a lot of questions. If he stays healthy, he does the job. Alex, no one expected Alex to do what he did last year. If he can do it again, he wasn't just a side player who happened to play well. What he did was make himself a major part of the Yankee offense, the number 3 or 4 hitter, whichever the lineup might be on a given day, and drive in big runs. If those two guys can somehow duplicate what they did last year, Teixeira without the injury, Alex without wilting down the stretch in September, and I think the Yankees are contenders. That's how important these guys are. They're the 3 and 4 hitters in the lineup.
Well, those guys have a lot of pride and respect for the game, and I throw CC Sabathia into that, too. He's kind of a fascinating story for me in 2016. Coming off his alcohol rehab, says he's light years ahead of where he is in terms of conditioning in the offseason. I think he could be a huge part of that rotation if he's healthy.
I would agree with you. You just hope and pray that everything is okay with the off-the-field issues and the stories today. He certainly said that he was doing well. Last 9 starts of last year, 2-2 with a 2.86 ERA. Once they fitted him with the brace, he was a different pitcher. He looked like, I wouldn't say the CC of old, but a guy that you could plug in as the 3rd or 4th starter in a rotation, and he is going to give you a chance every single game to win. His location was better, and you could tell that once they put the brace on, there was not that expectation of pain, which I think hurt him in terms of locating the baseball. He's not able to locate. He's not going to get people out because he doesn't throw 97 or 98 anymore. The velocity used to make up for the lack of location. Now he's got to hit his spots, and he did that once he put the brace on. I thought he was a real force for the Yankees down the stretch. And again, if that brace serves the same purpose this year and he's okay off the field, and again, we hope that that's the case, I think he becomes a wild card for the Yankees, somebody that could really help them. You're not expecting that much out of him, and maybe he gives you the type of year he used to give you. Maybe he could give you 32 starts. Maybe he could give you 14 to 15 wins. That would go a long way for the Yankees because one of their question marks is, do they have enough starters? Do they have to go out and get one more starter before the offseason's over? Maybe he's that one starter.
I actually think they do have to go out and get another starter, which leads to my next question for you. What's next? Yankee fans are constantly asking us. I know they call your show. What else is Brian Cashman going to do? What do you think is left for him, Michael?
Well, I agree with you. I think they have to get another starter. David Cohn has certainly sold me on his theory. You have to have 7 starters because there's not a staff that goes through without somebody getting hurt and somebody having to step in. So you need 7 starters. If one of them has to be a swing guy in the bullpen, that's fine. One of them has to be stashed at Scranton Wilkes-Barre AAA, that's fine as well. So I think you have to go out and get a starter. But I think the most important thing, and I think the way baseball has gone now, even when you've got good starters, they don't give you 7 or 8 innings anymore. They give you 5 1/3, 5 2/3. And I think the strength of the Yankee team last year was their bullpen. There's no Justin Wilson anymore. There's no Adam Warren. The young players that they brought up at the end of last year, they were a little sketchy at times. Now, there's some room for growth there because they've got big league arms and they've got velocity. You can't teach velocity. You can teach them to do other things. I know the Yankees are high on guys like Pazos and Brian Mitchell. Maybe they could help them. Maybe Mitchell could be the starter that we're talking about. But I think that Brian Cashman's still going to look for a starter, and I think he's got to plug some holes in the bullpen, and then you can sit back and relax until it's time to go to Tampa.